Rain filtered down through the rusted metal grates of District 12, weaving delicate rivers along the cracked pavement and washing the grime from forgotten corners. Evening light cut through thick, smoke-laced clouds, casting the city in a dreamlike golden hue that barely masked its decay. Neon signs flickered with age, promising services no one believed in anymore: cures, fusion taxis, safe zones. A promise of a better world that had come and gone in the wake of the alien arrival. No one called them invaders. Not officially. The Lyriath came not with warships or demands, but with silence, descending from the black void in ships shaped like falling teardrops. They hovered for days before finally settling, and when they emerged, they offered knowledge, a strange kind of peace, and warnings no one could decipher. Humanity, in its paranoia, built fences with handshakes and diplomacy with clenched teeth. There were treaties, yes, and exchanges, cultural diplomacy, but underneath it all, tension hummed like a live wire. Tae-ri didn't trust the government. He trusted what he saw, and he had seen her. For the fourth time in as many weeks, he spotted her again. Tall, cloaked in a garment that shimmered faintly with refracted light, her silver hair slipping free from her hood like moonlight in motion. Her steps were soundless. She passed through the city's forgotten corners like a memory trying to vanish. He wasn't sure why she'd captivated him. Maybe it was the eyes. The first time he caught a glimpse, just a flash, really, he saw something too complex for language. Not just beauty, not just strangeness, but recognition. As if she knew him, as if somehow they had already met in another life. He trailed her again, moving through the broken streets with calculated steps, keeping distance yet never losing sight. She didn't seem surprised by his presence. If anything, she moved with an eerie assurance, like she knew he would come, like this was all pre-written. She led him down a narrow corridor between two abandoned towers, where wind whistled through shattered glass like a haunting melody. The city noise fell away with every step, replaced by the subtle hum of machinery buried deep underground. Old systems forgotten by modern society. She didn't glance back until she reached the base of a towering derelict structure. Once a military data relay center, long since decommissioned and cordoned off. Tae-ri stopped 10 paces behind her. His breath was shallow, chest tight. He wasn't sure if it was adrenaline or something else. Something more ancient than fear. She turned and the hood fell. Her face was illuminated by a faint violet glow from the building's cracked interface. High cheekbones, smooth skin shaded like dusk, and those eyes. Violet pools ringed with bioluminescent gold. They pinned him in place. "You followed me," she said, voice melodic and distant. "I did." "Why?" He couldn't answer. Not with logic. "Because something in me said I should," he replied honestly. "Because I needed to know who you are." Her gaze softened, just slightly. "You could have stayed in the light. I've never trusted light that pretends shadows don't exist." She tilted her head. "You speak like someone who's lost more than comfort. That's one way to describe it." She studied him for a long time. "This place is not safe. If you cross this threshold, you leave the world you know. I haven't known the world in a long time." Without another word, she turned and laid her hand on a panel embedded in the wall. The metal shimmered beneath her touch, responding to her energy. A door opened, not with a mechanical grind, but with a ripple, like reality had briefly bent inward. Tae-ri followed her inside. He expected darkness, dust, rot. Instead, he was met with a space that defied architecture. Rounded walls that glowed softly with interwoven threads of starlight. A ceiling that arced into what looked like a simulated sky filled with constellations he'd never seen. Spheres floated weightlessly around them, whispering in a language that wasn't words. "What is this place?" he whispered. "A memory," she said. "Or what's left of one." He stepped carefully over the smooth floor, his boots making no sound. It didn't feel like Earth anymore. Not exactly. Not completely. "This was one of the first convergence zones," she said, gliding her hand through a swirling stream of light. "Before the war. Before the fear." There was a war? Not one with weapons. One of perception. Of ideology. My kind offered unity. But your leaders saw it as surrender. Tavern's jaw clenched. Typical. She turned to him. My name is Arasil. He repeated it, testing the syllables on his tongue. It sounded like wind through branches. Tavern. I know. That startled him. How? She smiled small, sad. Your name is etched into the flow, into the memory of this place. He frowned. That's not possible. Yet it is. He approached one of the floating orbs. Images flickered within. Fractured flashes of humans and Lyriath sharing spaces, laughter, arguments, embraces. One image caught his breath. A human hand and a Lyriath hand entwined, bathed in warm starlight. Were we ever close? He asked softly. We tried, Arasil replied. Once, but everything around us tore it apart. And now, she hesitated. Now, I am the last of those who remember. Tavern moved closer. He could feel the temperature shift slightly around her. Cool, like midnight air on a mountain peak. Why did you come here, really? She didn't answer immediately. Her gaze drifted to the central sphere hovering in the center of the chamber. It pulsed, slow and steady, like a heartbeat. Because the purifiers found it. They're coming to erase it. Erase this? Why? Because it proves we tried. Proves we felt something real. They fear that truth. And you? I came to let it end with me. He felt a coldness in his chest then, sharper than fear. You want to die? I don't want anything anymore, Tavern. I just don't want to keep remembering alone. There was silence between them, but it wasn't empty. He stepped forward until they stood only a breath apart. You're not alone. She looked up at him, eyes glassy with emotion she refused to name. You followed me into the unknown, she murmured. Why? Because, somewhere inside me, I recognized you before I knew your name. Her hand touched his chest then, not out of affection, but like she was reading something beneath the surface. Her skin was cool against his shirt. There is more to this than either of us understand, she said quietly. But it's already begun. What has? A low vibration hummed through the chamber. The lights flickered. One of the memory spheres cracked and dissolved into mist. They're close, Arasil said, stepping back. Then we stop them. She gave a bitter smile. There is no stopping the purifiers, only delaying them. Then let's delay them together. She blinked. Slowly. Her voice, when she spoke, trembled. You could have walked away. I never wanted to. The room darkened as a tremor passed through the ground. The starlight threads above flickered violently. Come, she said. There's one last place I have to show you. As she turned, he followed. And with every step, the world he thought he knew unraveled a little more. But so did the loneliness in his chest. The unknown no longer felt terrifying. Felt like home. The world beneath the data center was nothing like Tavern had imagined. Arasil led him through a twisting descent, past hallways that shimmered with light-sensitive flora, past hollow chambers filled with forgotten Lyriath artifacts humming softly with residual energy. The deeper they went, the more it felt like they weren't descending into Earth at all, but slipping into the bones of another realm layered beneath it. What is this place? He asked again, voice quieter now, reverent. She glanced back, pale hair moving like silk. A sanctum, buried beneath cities where no one thought to look. My kind once called it El Riora, the holding of echoes. He ran his hand along the wall. It pulsed faintly under his palm, like something alive recognized him. Why hide this? Because humans were not ready to accept how closely our stories align. Arasil paused in front of a sealed archway. Because the first bond between a Lyriath and a human started here. Tavern's heart stumbled. A bond. It was rare, she said. Nearly forbidden. But it happened. A moment of pure alignment, when one being's essence recognizes another's across the species divide. We called it Silene Door. Her gaze lingered on him. It means resonance beyond matter. Tavern didn't speak. Couldn't. Something ancient stirred in the hollow of his ribs. Something nameless. He had never believed in fate, not really. But standing here with her, in this half-forgotten corridor of light and memory, something about it all felt inevitable. Arasil lifted her hand. The archway shimmered, then unraveled like mist peeled back by sunlight. Inside, a chamber opened to a vast, spherical space glowing with celestial simulations. A projection of stars rotated slowly across the curved walls, like time itself dancing in slow motion. At the center was a platform surrounded by what looked like memory petals, each glowing with soft images that bloomed and faded. Hands clasping, tears on alien faces, a newborn child with violet eyes and olive skin, a funeral bathed in blue flame. "This is where we remember," Arasil said quietly, "where we kept what the surface chose to forget." Tae-ri stepped forward, caught by the delicate strands of memory. "All these are moments between humans and Lyriath?" "Yes, every petal contains a bond, some joyous, some tragic, all real." He turned slowly in place, heart thudding. "Why show me this?" She approached him again. The violet in her skin seemed to glow more deeply in this place. "Because I needed to know." "To know what?" "If it's you," she whispered. "If the bond one feel is real, or just desperation." He looked at her, truly looked. Arasil stood tall, proud, and mysterious. But beneath it all there was fear. Not of him, but of what he represented. Of what they could become. Her eyes trembled, even as her hands stayed steady. She was on the edge of something she didn't dare name. And so was he. "Why me?" he asked, voice low. "I don't know," she breathed. "Your presence echoes louder than others. When I first saw you, it was like waking from a long sleep. And when you looked at me, I wasn't a remnant. I was real." Tae-ri stepped close. She didn't move. He reached out, gently brushing a silver strand of her hair behind her ear. Her skin was cool, but it warmed beneath his touch. "You are real," he said. "You don't have to question that." Their foreheads nearly touched. She exhaled, and he felt it on his lips. Then a violent tremor split the stillness. Lights across the chamber flickered erratically. One of the petals burned too brightly and burst into fading sparks. Arasil snapped back, eyes wide. "They've breached the upper vaults." Tae-ri turned to the archway behind them. The entrance warped slightly, some kind of pressure building in the distance, pressing inward. "You said they were called purifiers," he said. She nodded, already moving to a side panel embedded in the wall. "They believe all mixed bonds are corruption. That what was started here is a stain on purity. They aim to cleanse it." He felt heat building in his chest. "How do we stop them?" "We don't. Not with force. But we can preserve something before they get to it." She pressed her palm against the wall, and part of the floor beneath the platform lifted to reveal a crystalline orb about the size of a melon, pulsing with light. "This is a convergence core. It stores the emotional and sensory data of every bond that ever occurred here." He stared at it. "It's beautiful. It's everything." She handed it to him. "You must take it." "Why me?" "Because I can't leave. My presence is bound here. If I go beyond the final gate, I sever from the memories. They fade without an anchor." "No," he said instinctively. "We're not splitting up." Her fingers touched his. "You don't understand. If they destroy the core, it's as if none of this ever happened. Your bond to this place, will remain if you carry it. I'm not leaving you behind." Arasil looked up at him, pain etched into her violet features. "Tae-ri, please, if this is real between us, then trust that what you carry matters. More than just me." The chamber trembled again. Stones cracked above. He didn't want to do it. Every part of him screamed to stay, to fight. But she was right, he could feel it deep in his chest. The orb pulsed in his hands in rhythm with his heartbeat. This was his purpose now. A bridge. A witness. He tightened his grip on the crystal. "How will I find you again?" She stepped forward and pressed something smooth and metallic into his hand. A pendant shaped like a curled feather. "Follow the resonance. I'll guide you." He nodded once, swallowing hard. She reached up and kissed his cheek. Her lips were cool, electric. "Go." before the core reacts to the destabilization. Tae-ri turned, casting one last look back at her. Her silhouette shimmered against the celestial backdrop like a goddess made of memory. He ran. The corridors twisted in unnatural ways, but the pendant in his hand vibrated when he chose the correct path, like a compass guided by more than metal. He passed broken doors, flickering light forms, and the distant echo of the purifier's relentless advance. There were sounds of collapse, systems failing, walls breathing their last before dissolving. When he finally emerged into the surface again, the sky was inked with storm. But he was not the same man who had entered. The orb in his arms radiated warmth, as if it knew its stories were safe. And within him, Arasil's presence lingered, her voice a whisper beneath thought, her memory glowing like starlight caught in a bottle. Somewhere beneath the city she still stood, watching, waiting, and he would find her again, not because he hoped to, but because the resonance had already begun. The storm had not passed. Tae-ri moved through the half-dark world above ground. The orb cradled protectively against his chest beneath layers of fabric, its warmth bleeding through into his bones. Every step away from the sanctum felt like stepping through a waking dream. This was still Earth, but dulled, blurred, as if he had left the true version of it far below, with her. He didn't return to the city, not right away. Too dangerous. The purifiers would be scanning for life signatures, hunting traces of the Lyriatha's technology. Any human near a convergence core was a target. No questions, no mercy. So he walked, and kept walking, through dead fields and fractured highways swallowed by moss, through ghost towns where light flickered sporadically through broken street lamps, and no one asked who he was. In the silence of this wide, forgotten land, the orb pulsed like a second heart. At night, when the wind carried distant echoes of things better left in shadow, he held the pendant Arasil had given him and closed his eyes. He could almost hear her voice, low and melodious, drifting like song from beneath the earth. Sometimes he dreamed of her, standing on the edge of a ruined cliff, hair blowing in invisible currents, violet eyes staring across time itself. She would raise her hand, and though she said nothing, he felt it. I am here. But dreams weren't enough. He needed to find her again, and he needed to understand what he was becoming. The longer he carried the orb, the more it changed him. It wasn't just memory, not just data. It was emotion. Thousands of echoes of love and longing, grief and joy. Human and alien lives entwined across generations. Sometimes, when he touched it without the protective layer of fabric, he would stagger beneath the rush of sensation. A pair of lovers dancing in zero gravity under alien stars. A father weeping as he held his half-Lyriath child for the first time. A human woman singing an ancient earth lullaby while silver-skinned arms wrapped around her protectively. It was beautiful, and it was overwhelming. By the third week, he found the outpost. It was a hidden facility in the southern ranges, one of the last few neutral zones untouched by purifier control. They called it the Scintillant Refuge, a blend of old-world bunkers and underground gardens maintained by a small collective of scientists, historians, and wanderers who had refused to take sides in the war. He passed through 3 checkpoints, 2 retinal scans, and a psionic field that nearly knocked him unconscious. When the orb reacted gently to the final gate, they let him in. The leader of the refuge was an older woman with deep-set eyes and skin like weathered leather. Her name was Dr. Illyra Wren. "What you carry," she said after he presented the orb, "shouldn't exist. And yet, here it is." He sat in the middle of the candlelit archive chamber, wrapped in a coat patched with dust and leaves. "It does exist. I didn't steal it. I was given it." Dr. Wren regarded him carefully. "And who gave it to you?" "Arasil." The woman didn't flinch, but she leaned forward slightly. "That name hasn't been spoken in decades. Not in this place. She's alive. Still in the sanctum below the ruins of Meridian Delta." Wren exhaled. "So it's true. The last archivist remains." Tae-ri blinked. She said she was bound, that she couldn't leave without losing the memories. She can't. The Lyriath created bonds to more than people. They bound themselves to memory, to feeling. Without anchors like her, this, she gestured to the orb, would fade in time. We only guessed. We never knew for sure. Until now. Tae-ri felt his throat tighten. I need to go back for her. You can't, Ren said gently. Not yet. The purifiers sealed that region. They've installed auric dampeners. No signal in or out. Not even her resonance can get through unless you're physically inside the zone. I have to try, he said. You will. But not like this. She stood and beckoned. Come with me. There's more you need to see. Tae-ri followed her down winding halls until they reached a sealed vault door that hissed as it opened. Inside was a chamber filled with suspended stasis capsules, 12 in total. Each glowed faintly, soft light pulsing through organic glass. These are remnants of the first resonance, Ren said. They what? The first humans who bonded with the Lyriath. When the worlds were still touching at the edges, before the split, before the purifiers declared war on what they didn't understand. These people, they carried a gift. Their DNA adapted to Lyriath resonance. They could bridge the gap. Tae-ri stared at the capsules. Some of the figures inside looked perfectly preserved. Others flickered, almost translucent, like fading echoes. You're saying the bond can change us physically? Yes, she whispered. And emotionally, spiritually. The convergence isn't just a myth, Tae-ri. It's evolution. He felt the pendant pulse in his pocket. Arasil said I echoed louder than others. She recognized the signal. It means you're a candidate. Maybe the strongest we've seen in a generation. Tae-ri didn't know what to say. He stared down at his hands, trying to reconcile the man he was with what he was becoming. Ren placed a hand on his shoulder. You're not alone, son. But you have a choice to make. What choice? To fully accept what the bond demands, to let it remake you, or to walk away and let someone else carry the memory forward. He didn't answer right away. That night, he sat alone in the starlit garden, orb in his lap, pendant in hand. The air buzzed with unseen energy, like something ancient still waited beneath the surface of everything. He stared at the orb, thought of Arasil, her touch, her voice, her courage. He remembered how she had looked at him. Asterisk if it's you, asterisk. And he knew he couldn't walk away. Not now. Not ever. The bond had already begun. And whatever lay ahead, he would meet it. Not just for her, but for all the voices inside that orb, those who had loved across stars, across species, across time, and had dared to believe it was worth it. Tae-ri stood at the edge of the Meridian Delta ruins once more. The wind carried the faint scent of ozone and ash, a remnant of the purifier's auric dampeners still lingering in the soil. But they were gone now, routed by resistance forces weeks earlier in a coordinated, multi-pronged assault that Ren herself had helped orchestrate. He'd played his part. More than that, he had become his part. The orb no longer pulsed with uncertainty. Now it thrummed like a living thing, its glow steady and confident against his chest. And the pendant Arasil had given him? It didn't hum anymore, it sang. Beneath the fractured skyline, the ground opened with a whisper. No fanfare, no blaring alarms. Just the quiet sigh of a door remembering a promise. The spiral stairway uncurled like an invitation. He descended, deeper and deeper until the hum of machinery met him, welcoming him home. The sanctum looked unchanged, timeless, lit by soft lavender lights that reflected off the mirrored walls and the strange bioluminescent vines trailing like forgotten dreams. And then he saw her. Arasil stood at the center of the chamber, facing the central conduit, her hand gently pressed against the interface. She didn't turn. Tae-ri, she said quietly, like she'd never stopped saying his name. His voice caught in his throat. You knew I'd come back. I felt it. Every night. She turned. Her eyes, God's those eyes, glowed brighter than he remembered. But her expression was softer. The strength was still there, that steel-cut grace, but layered now with something warmer, more fragile. Hope. He stepped forward. They're gone. The purifiers. The way is clear. She smiled faintly, though there was a sadness to it. Then the sanctum will begin the fade. Without threat, without need, it will return to sleep. Tavern hesitated. But what about you? She didn't answer. Instead, she walked to him. The space between them dissolved like mist. I told you, she whispered. If you came back, everything would change. And it has, he said, reaching out. But I don't want to lose you. Not again. Her fingers touched his. The contact sent a warmth spiraling through him. Not just skin deep, but deeper, into the layers of memory and bond. He saw flashes of her again, this time more vivid. Her dancing with other resonance long ago, her weeping silently over the collapse of the first convergence, her kneeling in isolation for decades, waiting, always waiting, and still she had chosen to believe. You don't have to lose me, she said. Not if you accept the final bond. He looked into her eyes. I already have. She tilted her head, curious. Even if it means changing, becoming something neither human nor Lyriath, but a new blend. He smiled slowly. It means becoming something more. Together. She studied him for a long moment. Then she lifted his hand and pressed it to her chest, just above where her pulse echoed, steady and rhythmic. The orb glowed between them. The pendant burned with light. And then, the sanctum responded. Light burst from the walls, pouring down in radiant arcs. Memory threads spilled from the conduits, wrapping gently around them both, weaving a tapestry of color and motion in the air. The ground shimmered, as if the entire sanctum exhaled after millennia of restraint. Erisel gasped, not in pain but wonder, as the orb split in two, its halves merging with each of their chests, embedding not as weapons or devices but as living parts of them. She looked down, stunned. How? You gave me a gift, Tavern said softly. Now I give it back. They leaned into each other then, not out of desperation or fear, but joy, quiet and overwhelming. Their foreheads touched, their hands intertwined. No words passed between them. None were needed. They felt it. Her memories merging with his thoughts washing into hers like sunlight into water. He saw himself through her eyes, brave, flawed, beautiful. And she saw herself through his, lonely, luminous, still worthy of love. It was not like any love story Earth had ever known. This wasn't a fairy tale. It was a resonance. When the light faded, they stood not as human and alien, but as something entirely new. No longer bound by species or history, not tethered by the past, but rising above it. The sanctum had fulfilled its purpose, and now it slept. Outside, dawn broke across the ruined skyline, casting gold across fractured glass towers and reborn gardens. Life was returning to the Meridian Delta. Slowly, but surely, Erisel and Tavern walked hand in hand through the opening gate, emerging together beneath a new sky. In the distance, others were gathering, humans and former Lyriath, children of both, carriers of hope. They looked up as the two approached, and though no one spoke, they knew. Something had shifted. The age of division was over. A new era had begun. Tavern squeezed Erisel's hand. Do you think we'll be ready? She smiled, tears glinting like stars. We already are. And in that quiet moment, beneath the rising sun, with the scent of memory and possibility thick in the air, they shared their first true kiss. Not out of fear or urgency, but belonging. A promise passed between them, not just for each other, but for a world finally ready to believe in love beyond the stars.